Welcome everyone. I am Adeshewa Josh and this is Africa Matters. This week we look at how the youth in Africa are shaping the political landscape across the continent. And filling the tech gap, we visit a company that's driving digital learning among young people so that they can tackle social issues using technology. And we go to the Kingdom of Lesotho, where a rare ski resort welcomes thousands of visitors as global temperatures rise. The United Nations says that Africa has the youngest population in the world. And by 2050, experts predict that a quarter of the people in the world will be African. Yet, Africa's youth remain disproportionately affected by unemployment, poverty, and a lack of representation in government in most countries. Despite Angola's vast oil wealth, more than half of young Angolans under the age of 25, who make up 60% of the southern African country, are unemployed. Their frustration with corruption, rising inflation, and unemployment is fueling the country's first ever tight race between the ruling Movement for the Liberation of Angola, or MPLA party, and the opposition National Union for the Total Independence of Angola, UNITA, which promises to fix the economy and create jobs.
The unemployment rate is quite extensive and the way of life is precarious. There is a revolt in the minds of the youth, especially those who dreamed of a new Angola.
There has been an awakening. There is more awareness among the population, especially the youth, who for years have been mobilizing and working because they want to know where their vote goes, they want to see alternative parties, and they want to see change.
Now, that longing for change among young people appears to be reshaping the political landscape in many African countries. In South Africa, the ruling African National Congress, ANC, has been in power since 1994. They fought for the end of white minority rule, but they've been losing support among the youth who are affected by high unemployment, corruption, and the rising cost of living. In Kenya, where 75% of the population is below the age of 35, years of unfulfilled government promises, a record high youth unemployment, and what they describe as an illusion of choice has led some young people to boycott elections. Africa's largest economy, Nigeria, is gearing up for a general election in February. And young voters, who make up 70% of the population, say they are looking beyond the presidential candidates fronted by the ruling and main opposition party.
I'm interested in who will lead me this time around. Yes, because I think it's like we have given up. There is no hope, but we just discovered recently that there is hope. There is hope for us. And the hope can only count when we come out massively to do that.
Let's hear more from Jonathan Offei-Ansah. He is the founder, Africa Briefing Magazine. He joins me from London. Thank you so much for making the time. Have you seen a shift in voting patterns among young people in Africa? Or is it simply a case of a young continent with old leaders who fail to connect with them?
Well, yes, the voting patterns actually vary from country to country, but the underlying reasons, generally are the same. Africa, about 60% of Africa's youth constitute the general. Africa's population has about 60%. 60% of them are the youth. Okay, and currently most of them are under 24 years, but most of them see themselves bereft of economic opportunities. They feel marginalized. So depending on which country you look at, there's either apathy or the determination to change the government in order for them to get more opportunities.
Right. You said change the government. How feasible is that?
Well, it is feasible. Let's take Nigeria, for instance. And take the demonstrations, the violent demonstrations against the SAS, the Special Armed Robbery Squad of the Nigerian police. Yes, I mean, look, the Nigerian youth were able to force the government of Buhari to disband that squad. Okay, so now having seen that, look, that having realized the power they have, they are trying to move that, translate that into a choice of government, right? For them, to get the opportunities they feel that they are missing out on. And then you take somewhere like Kenya. They had their elections last week, earlier this month. Okay, now we had the political dynasty of the current president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the opposition leader, Odinga, okay, vying against William Ruto, who campaigned on the platform of hustle. Okay, he campaigned that, look here, I come from, unlike Odinga, who comes from a political dynasty, I'm a hustler. I come from a very poor background, and I hustled, sold chickens on the street to get where I am. So I am going to help uplift you, the youth, okay? And though, I mean, the percentage of youth registering to vote in the August elections was drastically down on the previous years, yet the youth managed to vote for Ruto, to move him into power. So the underlying reasons, the dynamics are the same, but the movements vary from country to country.
What can African governments then do to deal with mass youth discontent and youth voter apathy that we are seeing now?
Oh, they make sure that, number one, it's all economic governance. Good governance, political governance, and economic governance. Economic governance is crucial, okay? Create jobs, create the necessary conditions for the private sector to create jobs for the people. Look, I mean, every year, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, every year we have an average of 1 million graduates coming onto the jobs market with no jobs, right? And that breeds discontent, that breeds apathy, that breeds everything, right? So if the governments can manage the economy properly, as a result of good economic governance, right, and create jobs, I mean, these things will be, most of these problems will be solved.
Right. Well, I mean, youth unemployment is quite the conundrum, right, on the continent. Any government that figures it out is probably going to be the champion on the continent. Thank you so much, Jonathan Offei-Ansah, the founder, Africa Briefing Magazine, for speaking to Africa Matters. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
We have more stories coming up for you here on Africa Matters, including...
I am Isaac Kaleji in Accra. I will show you how Ghanaian children are learning to become the next generation of software engineers by building applications that solve real-world problems.
We go to Sudan, where aid agencies are calling for urgent assistance in response to floods which have killed nearly 100 people and left thousands homeless. The seasonal rains are being described as the worst in nearly 10 years. Julie Daiga reports.
Sudan's seasonal downpour off to a deadly start. The country is experiencing its fourth consecutive year of abnormally extensive floods. Thousands have been left homeless, with fears the worst is yet to come.
We were struck by the floods and all houses collapsed. The houses of my 2 sons completely collapsed and I have 2 wives. All the houses collapsed and I only have this iron hut and I'm currently homeless at the village.
South of the capital Khartoum, in the farming town of Al-Managil, residents are stranded with limited access to drinking water or food. Families are seeking shelter in makeshift camps, with most assistance cut off by floods almost 2 meters deep.
We have been waiting here for more than 3 days, and every time we try and cross the street to move, honestly we couldn't. There is a real humanitarian catastrophe in Al-Managil, and this is a problem that the entire society should help with all its sectors and resources. The only solution is to deliver aid via planes.
Nationwide, more than 150,000 people have been affected by floods this year. The United Nations expects that number to rise to almost 500,000 by the end of the rainy season. Locals are desperately calling on the government for help.
This is completely by the people's efforts. All is done by good people, businessmen, and the contributions of citizens to end the suffering of these people and also to feed them. There is no governmental intervention, no support, and nothing offered by the government to the people.
Sudanese authorities are promising to provide necessary assistance, but aid agencies are urgently calling for additional funding. With rains expected to last until September, there are grave fears more lives and homes will be lost in the coming weeks. Juliet Ager, Africa Matters.
The Horn of Africa, however, is experiencing its worst drought in 40 years. The UN says at least 18 million people are facing severe hunger, and nearly half of all children under 5 are malnourished. Aid workers are using a powerful weapon to save lives in these situations. But as Hilal Uzun reports, rising prices mean fewer people will get the help they desperately need.
Aripokiro Nakujan has 6 children, and it's often been hard to feed them all. Northern Kenya has had no significant rainfall in 3 years.
We have no livestock. We have nothing. We depend on the trees and collect wild berries. We collect them, crush them, cook them, and eat with our children. That's our food.
Nutrient-rich peanut paste can mean the difference between life and death. A single sachet contains 500 calories and essential vitamins and minerals. It's long been used to prevent child starvation after disasters around the world. UNICEF buys what's known as ready-to-use therapeutic food, or RUTF, to feed at least 3.5 million children a year.
It's so critical in such a way, like if you get a patient who is severely acute malnutrition, starting them with RUTF at least it boosts them, and then we usually see them in 2 weekly time. So we usually assess them and we see at least there is an impact in growth.
The Ukraine-Russia conflict has made the supplement more expensive. According to the UN, the cost of this life-saving treatment has risen by 16% from pre-war levels.
If we run out of this, more deaths will be recorded very soon, actually very soon. We lost a child, I saw. We actually referred 4 of them to Marsabit County Referral Hospital. 1 died, lost him, and 3 of them survived. So this one is life-saving. Without this, more children will die.
Children have been able to depend on peanut paste when their villages have turned into dust balls. But this year, they have little, if anything, to rely on. Hilal Uzun, Africa Matters.
You're watching Africa Matters, and here's a roundup of other stories making news across the continent. On Wednesday, hundreds of workers marched to the union builders in Pretoria to demand a price cap on fuel, an end to price gouging and chronic power shortages. 2 of South Africa's biggest unions also called for the government to reduce interest rates and introduce a universal basic income of roughly $90 a month. The nationwide strike comes as South Africa struggles to recover from the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine. The U.S. will return to Nigeria $23 million that was allegedly looted and stashed abroad by former Nigerian military ruler Sani Abacha. In recent years, Nigeria has secured the release of other loot from several countries, including Switzerland and Britain. The International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan has urged the UN Security Council to pursue justice for the people in the Western Darfur region of Sudan. He says more cooperation and resources to arrest and bring to trial alleged ringleaders of the violence should be allocated. Up to 300,000 people have been killed and over 2.5 million have fled their homes in the region since 2003. Welcome back to Africa Matters with me, Adeshawa Josh. The tech ecosystem is growing in Africa, but there is still a major gap in the number of people being trained to become innovators and inventors. In Ghana, some young people are benefiting from a mentoring and training program that prepares them for the future. They're being taught how to build robots and computer software that address social issues. Isaac Kaleji in Accra explains.
10-year-old Jean-Baptiste Hodu is the oldest student in this robotics class, and he's busy building a high-tech gadget from simple machines.
I enjoy robotics because I really love IT, technology, laptops and phones like that. So with the robotics, the coding, programming and stuff like that will really help me in my IT skills. Yes.
Hodu and the other kids here are benefiting from a robotics learning program run by Benjamin Norty, a software engineer. Norty picked up the skills of programming and building gadgets at a very tender age. For more than a decade now, his organization Mingo Blocks focuses on giving kids like these a shot at acquiring coding and robotic skills.
So they are introduced to all kinds of disciplines in STEM, robotics, coding, electronics, and other high-tech stuff. So the hope is that these children will build that inventive and creative mindset in order to, be the next Einstein, be the next Steve Jobs, be the next Elon Musk, so that they can actually design solutions that the African continent, that the world actually needs desperately.
Technology has the potential to give Africa an economic boost, but the continent has lagged behind in teaching young people about tech skills. That's starting to change. The kids you see behind me may be some of those who help make a difference in the future.
Norty and his team are already building real robots for commercial and social use. This robot, called Cello, is Ghana's first commercial and social robot. It's designed to operate at supermarkets, banks and offices. Over a dozen have been built, and it cost $2,000 to rent one.
Welcome to my world, TRT-TV.
Norty plans to build more robots and expand their market.
So how we see ourselves in the next 5 years and more is to really expand our scope to many African countries. Typically, on the education side, we want our robots and our solutions to be in every classroom on the continent. And we also want to see other commercial products being used in businesses.
Norty's teaching initiative is proving successful. Hodu's mother is happy with the impact robotics and coding lessons are having on her children.
To put it mild, it shapes their future, what they are going to be. The exposure alone gives them that platform to be able to perform and not be intimidated by the outside world.
This initiative is just the beginning for Hodu and his sister, and it may just be the foundation they need to broaden their horizons. Isaac Kaleji, Africa Matters, Accra, Ghana.
We go to Nigeria next, where an estimated 29 million people are living with some form of disability, and there are few opportunities provided for them. But a new initiative is looking to change that. Ramesa Choda has more.
Basit Kozim was born without his lower right leg and has only been able to walk with crutches. But the 13-year-old has now been fitted with a prosthetic and is taking his first steps on 2 feet.
I'm happy to have this artificial leg. I'll use it to play football, to play when I'm sent on errands or going to school. I'll use it to play with my friends and to pray in the mosque. I'm happy about this.
But this is not a new prosthesis. The Ireda Foundation in Nigeria recycles old artificial limbs for children whose families cannot afford expensive new ones. The charity receives old prostheses from those who have outgrown them or from international donors.
Sometimes we have people outside the country that donate their old prosthesis, or maybe they got another one as a result of insurance and they just want to give it out. So we take out the components that are usable and we're able to put that together to use for a child, or sometimes even donate it to adults that need limbs.
Chikbo's daughter was born with a rare congenital limb condition, which meant her right lower leg had to be amputated when she was just 2 years old. The mother of two was inspired to start a foundation in her daughter's name to help other African children who have lost a limb. The charity also provides psychological support and training for young people with disabilities to help them find work placements.
10 years ago, we weren't even talking about it at all. Today, it's a conversation point. We're beginning to talk employability of persons with disabilities. We're talking accessibility in terms of building.
After touching many children's lives, Crystal's foundation hopes to expand further to empower more African children living with limb loss to live their lives to the fullest. Rumeysa Chodar, Africa Matters.
While millions of Europeans are sweating through a record-breaking temperature, some are slicing through the snow in the landlocked kingdom of Lesotho. Obeida Hito has more.
Cold weather and snow aren't hard to find in southern Africa, but ski resorts are. But this year, Lesotho's snowy mountains are attracting tourists and athletes from around the world.
I was originally born in London, but I spent the last 12 years teaching skiing and snowboarding in Austria. And this is my first season riding the Southern Hemisphere, riding South Africa. But my family's from here, so it's kind of nostalgic that I got to ride in Lesotho soil as my family's from here, so that's kind of a pleasure.
Lesotho is the only country in the world that is completely 1,000 meters above sea level. At an altitude of 3,000 meters, the Afriski Kapoko Snow Park in Lesotho's Maluti Mountains is the only operational ski resort in Africa south of the equator. The unique landscape makes for an even more unique experience, even for tourists like Kafi Mojapelo, who came from nearby South Africa.
I've been seeing a lot of ads on YouTube and I just thought, I really want to try that. And I've never seen snow in my life, so this is it's a great experience.
Professional skier and trainer Matthew Amoretti hopes more locals will take up winter sports in this unusual landscape. The Afriski Ski Resort is also a competition-ready snow park.
We are a small skiing nation, so FIS, the International Ski Federation, do give guys training, like facilities, and invite us to camps. And there is a big field of local Lesotho skiers, which is awesome to see. It's grown every single year. There's more and more and more. But yeah, majority would come from South Africa.
The climatic anomaly is not caused by climate change, but instead is due to Lesotho's peculiar geography. But its snowy slopes are attracting newcomers, escaping global heating elsewhere. Obeida Hito, Africa Matters.
This week, we explore Mbeya in southwest Tanzania. The city is known for its Kitulo Plateau National Park, which is called Bustani ya Mungu, or the Garden of God by the locals. Let's take a closer look. And that's a wrap for this week's show. Please share your thoughts and suggestions about the stories you've seen on this episode or ideas you want us to cover on Twitter using the hashtag #AfricaMatters. Feel free to reach out to me on my personal handle. It's @AdeShowaJosh. You can watch this episode and more on YouTube. Just search Africa Matters TRT World. Like, comment, and share. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next week.